Okay. I don't have to start all over again, though, right? Okay. Okay, we're going to start with outside agencies, and Carroll Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, or CZGP, whichever you guys flip the coin, who gets to go first? Ashley.
I'll go first. Is this one okay here then? Yes. All right, good evening. Thanks for your time tonight. I think most of you know who I am, but I'm Ashley Schabel, Program Director at the Chamber. And I'm here to report on tourism tonight. So as you know, the Carroll City Council has supported a portion of the Chamber's tourism marketing efforts for several years. These dollars assist the Chamber in marketing our Carroll community across the state, online, Iowa's Welcome Centers, and at several showcase events throughout our community, including the state baseball tournament every July. As in the past, the Carroll Chamber of Commerce is asking the city's support of our tourism marketing campaign, which continues to make meaningful contributions to our community. I'm heading into my 5th year here as program director at the Chamber, and with the support of an incredible staff, we've been able to improve our efforts with consistent messaging designed to reach multiple audiences as we encourage them to choose Carroll, to shop local, dine local, play local, and live local. Our Chamber team works hard to promote the community and drive traffic here through programs such as the Carroll Band Day, our 5K Color Fun Run at Swan Lake, our Core Classic Youth Basketball Tournament, which brings over 70 teams and their fans to Carroll every February. We also organize two golf tournaments, with the Chamber Tournament at the Carroll Country Club and our Ag Golf Tournament at the Muni every summer. These are all events that bring visitors to town and allow them to experience the many things Carroll has to offer. Supporting these efforts with increased marketing builds the quality of life image that we like to portray to our visitors, to potential employees, and many others that visit our community. Our tourism marketing efforts included a cable ad campaign this summer, as we invited fans from all over to experience our historic Merchants Park and our community during the state baseball tournament. The commercial, which featured our very own Executive Director Kimberly Tiefenthaler, aired on cable networks across Iowa, as well as local and statewide social sites. The Chamber also worked with local hotels and the Iowa High School Athletic Association to make sure all of the teams and the fans coming to Carroll had places to stay. The Carrollton alone welcomed visitors from Esterville, Remsen St. Mary's, Northland, New London, and Kingsley Pearson for the week. Days Inn and the Super 8 also hosted teams that week. The Chamber worked with local businesses and provided a list of restaurants, retail shops, and local attractions to encourage teams to experience our community while they were here. Local volunteers, some of you here, helped hand out those flyers at the state tournament this summer. Our hotel and restaurant lists were also posted on the Chamber website, state baseball page, and linked to the Iowa High School Athletic Association Tournament Central site for many others to find as well. We already have ideas to better work with our restaurants and our hotels to help our teams as they enter Carroll for their state tournament stay this summer. This last year, the Chamber also organized a stay and play golf package. We partnered with our 2 amazing golf courses and our local hotels to promote overnight stays and play at the courses. This package is promoted through iowagolf.com with promotional flyers and marketing ads in Travel Iowa as well. In its first year, it did pretty well. We've been encouraged, and we really feel like it's a package that will pick up here in year 2, so we're excited about that. The live and local music concerts that I've seen many of you at continue to bring family, friends, and neighbors together by offering free music the last Thursday of the month, May through September. Local businesses continue to reach out to us to see how they can become involved in these events, which have brought hundreds of guests to town, showing support for Carroll each month in our downtown central business district. For the 2nd year in a row, the Chamber brought the horse-drawn carriage rides to Carroll as part of our tourism marketing efforts, and this promotion is in conjunction with Small Business Saturday. A multimedia campaign that we did with ICANN featured the carriage ride and invited everyone to do their holiday shopping in Carroll, and I can tell you we took several calls at the Chamber office on that. A lot of people saw the horse and carriage and were wondering when it was and how they could get a ride, so we know that people are seeing that. We continue to coordinate all of our tourism efforts with the Iowa Tourism Office. I sit on the Western Iowa Tourism Board, and which allows visibility on websites, social media, both locally and around the state. Our chamber Facebook page, if you don't follow it, please follow that tonight, has over 3,500 followers and is used for promotion of business, the community, and so much more. It's really kind of taken off and I think become a place where people look for things that are going on in our community. The Chamber works hard to promote the community and drive traffic into our retailers, our restaurants, through our programs and events. As you've seen this year, we are asking the city for a $2,000 increase in support of our marketing efforts. We're requesting $30,000 to continue the Chamber's marketing efforts with some exciting, maybe even a few surprise events on the calendar for our town this year. Together, we hope we can continue to promote our wonderful community and remind everyone to choose Carroll, to shop local, dine local, play local, and live local. That's all I have, and I'm welcome to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Any questions for Ashley? I'm not gonna.
I heard real positive feedback on the ICANN. So
Yep.
using
Getting
all
good
the
reach, I
different
think, and it's
media
good
is-
engagement.
Yeah, thank you.
I drove a golf cart at the baseball stadium, and the positive feedback I got from all those people on how well organized everything was that you guys did. It was there, especially the motels and dining.
Yeah. And things we can definitely work on too. We learn a lot, don't we, Chad? So, yeah, it's a fun event for Carroll, so, yes. Nothing else? No? All right, thank you guys.
Thanks,
Yep.
Ashley. Kimberly?
Good evening. Thank you for having me here on behalf of the Carroll County Growth Partnership. I'm here to request our funding for the fiscal year 2024. But before doing that, I want to go over a few details of 22, our projects for 23 and more. Carroll County Growth Partnership is an organization that looks for and helps with economic development through the city of Carroll and Carroll County. It is an organization that was formed in 1985. 38 years later, it has gone through many changes. In its original form, and what was and legally is Carroll Area Development Corporation, works on projects like like Pella and Farnerbakken and much more. As we fast forward to today, the times have changed. Rural economic development is very different than it was even just 10 years ago. While it is always nice to try for the large corporations to come to our community, it's not realistic with our unemployment rates and our housing issues. We spend time with brick and mortar businesses in our downtown, working on BRNE, which is business retention and expansion, helping small business startups, finding and creating grant opportunities, childcare, housing, workforce, and so much more. With these changes, leadership has changed, myself in this role, and so much more. 2022 was a successful year in that we have positioned ourselves to now launch many new programs and help with economic growth throughout Carroll County. Carroll Area Development Corporation, with new leadership on the board of directors and myself, had the opportunity to reevaluate who we are and what we're doing, and what needs to be changed in the future. In that, we found a new identity in Carroll County Growth Partnership and a renewed energy for things to come. 2023 will be a year of action, a year of new programs, and a year for real growth and opportunity. We're calling 2023 Launch 2023. The projects we will continue to work on and new programs that we will launch in 2023 some of these are, and not limited to, like finalizing our 501c3. Through discussions, we've realized it's important for us to have a 501c3. Another one is Carroll County Child Care Coalition. We'd like to partner with our nonprofit child care centers throughout the county to help them in their payroll. There are state grant opportunities for our child care centers to expand and grow in different ways, but there's nothing available to assist them with their payroll. We want to keep investigating what it would be like to partner with them in that way. There's another opportunity in front of us called Hub 712 that we will be launching. It's a regional entrepreneurial hub located in Carroll. Hub 712 will help new businesses grow our existing businesses and put succession plans in place for anyone who may be looking at retirement. Hub 712 is a resource provided for everyone. It combines the experts of the SBDC and Advance Iowa from UNI to grow our business's potential in western central Iowa. Hub 712 will have a co-working space, a business incubator, and a business accelerator. Our hope is that Hub 712 will employ an individual who can be that full-time resource for businesses whenever needed. We are currently applying for a $200,000 grant to help kickstart this project and looking at other grant opportunities with the Economic Development Authority as well. There are other grant opportunities that we plan on launching in 2023 as well. In regard to our downtown, JCPenney's remains a top priority for all of us, the City of Carroll as well as the Chamber of Commerce and CCGP. We're all concerned about the vibrancy of our downtown and that cornerstone space in our downtown district. CCGP and our Business Retention Expansion Program will be completely redone this year. In 2022, the state of Iowa and IEDA chose to no longer use their existing program. That put a hole in our BRNE program. Moving forward, CCGP will create and use our own program. This will allow us to visit more businesses throughout the county, collect and analyze data faster, and give reports to City Hall and our supervisors at a much more efficient pace and to help our businesses and our community. BRNE, or Business Retention Expansion, is important to understand the overall health of our businesses and businesses of all sizes, not just our larger businesses, in other words, the smaller businesses. So BRNE traditionally focuses on more larger industry. Our tailored program will focus on small to medium-sized businesses as well. CCGP is happy to report in 2022 the return of the Access Washington trip. Access Washington is our annual trip to Washington, D.C., which has not happened for 2 years due to COVID. And we work to help communities throughout the county and our businesses with any issue that they may be facing. We have had a lot of success with this program, from getting natural gas lines from Manning to Arcadia, continued funding for our hospital through the Rural Community Demonstration Program, which has had an impact of $3 to $4 million to their bottom line, and many more things. In 2022, we had the pleasure of Councilman Dirks and the previous city manager, Mike Weaver, attending the trip with us. CCGP is excited that the Access Washington trip has returned and will continue to give Carroll and Carroll County and its constituents a voice in DC. As we look to the future, I remind you that CCGP is under the new leadership and direction. In 2022 was a year of learning, planning, and organizing. 23 will be a year of action, launching new programs, and working towards economic success and growth. Our plan and biggest ask is to be working partners. Our success is your success. The City of Carroll and Carroll County Growth Partnership are better together. Let's partner on grants, small business programs, and common vision to see the success and the growth of Carroll happen. Throughout 23, communication and transparency will remain our top priority. We feel communication improved. We've had more frequent conversations, and while that may not be perfect yet, we will continue to do our best. We will be as open as possible when it comes to projects. There are times for those conversations to certainly take place. The success of projects depends on it, and no one wants success more than we do. I understand that there may be questions, and certain individuals may want to ask, what have you done in the past 8 to 10 years? While I cannot speak to that because I wasn't in this position then, I will also not dwell on it. The time has come for now, the time is for the future, and I will look to do the best that I can. Not for us, not for you, but for the people of Carroll and Carroll County. They deserve it, and they are owed it. With that, I thank you for this opportunity, and is in your budget, we are requesting the $82,400. This is to help us build and make 2023 a year of action. We truly hope we can continue to partner together and grow our partnership. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or do not hesitate to reach out at any time. And I wanted to add one more tidbit from the chamber side of it. Just a fun fact that the chamber ended up their year, our year, with 135,000 of chamber bucks in circulation. That's just kind of a fun fact I like to share because I think that's quite amazing. I think that's a high. So anyway, 135,000 is quite a lot back in circulation. Great. Any questions that I can answer?
Your Hub 712 grant, when do you know when you're gonna find out if you got that or not? Do you know?
It is due, it's a very short turnaround. It opens the beginning of February and it's due beginning of March, and I think we find out pretty quickly. I don't know if it's April. It's actually a quarterly grant. Anything else?
Anyone else?
I just want to mention, Laverne and I were in Templeton for it was rural revitalization. I haven't looked at my stuff in a long time. Some real dynamic people attended that from other small towns, Jefferson, other places. Odebo, the gal from Odebo. I got in contact with Kimberly after that and told her it would be wonderful if we could have a little workshop and bring some of these people that are jump-starting really unique projects in their hometowns. And I'm hoping maybe you talked about partnering, getting together and so on. If maybe we could do a few of those down the road, Kimberly, but they were really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Right.
so anyway, thank
Yeah,
you for partnering with, it was Region 12, right?
Yeah, actually, Western Iowa Advantage, so our regional economic development group.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
it was worth the time. Thank you for doing that.
Great. Thank you.
Anything else?
Kimberly.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Okay, we will dive into the budget book next, and I'll turn it over to you, Laura. You're going to begin with a bit of an overview for us. Is that
Yes.
where you'd like to go next?
So, well, first off, we will go back, or not really go back, but we did cover tab B the other night at the council meeting last Monday. Did anybody have any other questions about the information presented there before we move off of it? It was kind of a quick overview of information provided.
Particularly in A and B?
A and B, yeah, A and B. Otherwise, the next section is C. I just got a few comments about this. So on page 24, starts with all the different departmental requests for capital items. It's broken down from what is currently in the fiscal 23 budget, either what was amended into the budget and then what was re-estimated for the fiscal 23, and then what the request is for fiscal 24. I'm not gonna go through this part because all the departments will touch on that when they do their presentations. Then if you continue through to page 29, it starts with what we call our 5-year CIP or capital improvement plan. It's an outlook of the projects from fiscal 24 to fiscal 28. There's actually 3 separate reports that show the exact same thing, just shown in slightly a different way. So on page 29 of your budget book, it's the projects and funding sources together by department. If you see a project identified with some expenditures in fiscal '24, that has been incorporated into this budget proposal.
Lauren, we still don't have signal on either one of these. On your
I do not
side,
know
or
how to get it. Did you try, like, is there a power cord that could maybe be unplugged and plugged back in? No, and I forgot to look at that today, apparently, obviously, since you still don't have it. Is that your computer, Rob?
Yes, I can see her.
Yeah.
Visual.
Still saying no signal.
Disconnect. Is there a power on off button on those?
Yeah,
things?
we've done that a couple
Okay.
different times.
That's weird.
Okay, I have a note, and we'll take a look at it tomorrow, and hopefully come to some resolution.
No.
Hey, you go stand up before you even watch it. Monitor. No, I have no idea.
Okay.
But I have a note, I'll take a look, we'll see what we can come up with, I'm not gonna guarantee we're gonna get any resolution with it, but,
Just tell us what page you're on, so that'll help
Yep,
us.
yep, so on page 29, so pages 29 through 34, which is
Good.
the,
We're good. Came back.
oh, it came back. Okay, no, don't say anything.
Attaboy.
29 through what?
Page, starting on page 29 is our 5-year CIP plan.
Way to go.
And you said that was through 34.
It is broken up, it is 3 separate reports, or each 2 pages each. It shows the exact
Okay.
same projects shown slightly differently. So on page 29 is the projects and the funding sources by department. If there's an expenditure listed in the column for fiscal '24, it is incorporated into the fiscal '24 budget proposal. And then it's an outlook of the next 4 years to give you an idea of the projects that are coming up, or that staff is looking at for the next 4 years. Then, so then if you go flip 2 more pages, starting on page 31, same information, but this is projects by department. It's the expenditure side only of just the projects. But still, it's the same information you just saw 2 pages ago. And then if you skip to 2 more pages further, it's now projects by funding source. So if you want to think about, oh, what are we looking at bonding in the next 5 years? There's a section for GO bond council vote. And it looks like we have a fire rescue vehicle and a street reconstruction project in fiscal '26, which those departments will talk about those projects when they release their term. So this just breaks it down by funding source. Any questions on the quick overview with the CIP, that's tab C? A lot of the pages 24 through 38 will be touched upon by each of the department in their budget proposals and requests.
Okay, quick questions.
Yes,
On page 29,
yes.
the first one is under the Merchants Park improvements, and it shows 460,900 coming out of this year's budget. And it was my recollection that it was 921,000. So can you explain?
Yes, part of the funding, or excuse me, part of the expenditures are in fiscal '23.
Okay, so they're,
Yep, so that's one of the limitations of this report.
it doesn't
If you
go
don't-
forward
If
or
you don't-
back.
Backwards, you don't see that on
Okay,
the backside.
perfect.
But yeah, if you have any questions about that, well, where's that project, or how come it's only partial? Just like going up a little bit further on that page, the pump station improvement.
And that was the
project
same
about-
way?
Yes, I've allocated a little bit of funding in fiscal '23.
Okay,
I don't know for sure how the funding will actually go with some of those projects, but you start planning for them, that you think you're gonna have some type of expenditure.
no, that explains it,
fiscal
perfect.
year.
And then, I'm just gonna throw the first salvo out there that above there, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it tonight because it's not relevant to fiscal year '24, but fiscal year '25, that aquatic center slide, I don't know, it must have started long before my tenure here, and I know it's kind of get pushed back, and I know that it was part of our rec center discussion this year, because we had a little bit of a shortage there. We're going to, use some additional local option sales tax fund. But I just question the relativism, to that type of project when $425,000 for an aquatic slide. I'm just going to put it out there, and I don't know anybody else's feelings. They want to share them tonight, it's fine. But, it'd probably be more of a question in fiscal year '25, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense yet. But it must have been on there a couple years ago and
Yeah, we've
part of
been
the capital
talking about it
improvement
for a while.
plan, so, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we need to add a little something there.
That's my questions.
Or they're gonna remove one and make it.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions for the, more focusing, I guess, on the 5-year CIP? Okay, if not, then our next section that I'll touch on is tab D, the debt information. So on page 36, is the debt schedule, repayment schedule. So we have a number of debt issuances that are currently outstanding. There is proposed in this budget on here called the proposed GO Capital Loan Notes 2023A. It is for some funding to go towards the Adams Street reconstruction project as well as the rec center. We actually talked about this debt issuance last year, but the street project, what was delayed a year as we were working through some different issues and decisions needed to be made with that project. Now we're on track to look at issuing this either at the very end of fiscal '23 or the beginning of fiscal '24, but having the first repayment of that debt in fiscal '24 in December. So that's what's being incorporated into this debt schedule, as well as the amount that's being asked for the debt service levy, the $805,457. And that then incorporates into keeping the debt service levy very similar to last year at around $1.40. This repayment schedule of this loan is structured such that it's an 8-year repayment schedule, and there is planned to have another debt issuance from another major street reconstruction project in fiscal '26 as well as fiscal '29. Something that we took a look at last year when we were doing a lot with our debt planning was trying to incorporate in some major street reconstruction projects, which we're talking multi-million-dollar projects, $2, $3, $4 million, maybe even more, is to do those projects about every 3 years. So that's the work we've been doing with PFM and trying to structure the debt levy in such a manner, and keeping that debt service levy at roughly around $1.40. There's quite a few assumptions in there.
I wondered if that included that, so thank you.
As
Step
well
ahead
as,
usual.
in fiscal '26, looking to issue debt for a fire rescue vehicle, which Dan can talk about that. He's scheduled to talk on Wednesday about some of that stuff, but. Does anybody have, okay, so this is the repayment schedule, and you can see down here, I'm kind of moving my cursor around here, what the debt service supported by annual levy amount does over the next few years. And you can see it's slowly going down. That's because we are planning for some debt issuance and coming up for those street projects. And then we just have fiscal '24 and '25 left on this FRS loan that was issued 18 years ago. So we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on that one. Does anybody have any questions on the proposed debt? If it's agreeable to council to include this, and that's the plan to go forth if we want to do Adams Street, funding for Adams Street, we will need to do a pre-levy resolution, walk through that process during this budget process. We did that process last year during the budgeting process. Well, in order to include this debt issuance and asking for taxes, we need to walk through that since we don't have the debt officially issued as of the time we'll be filing the budget.
Makes sense.
So we'll work with Allers to bring forth that paperwork that we need to.
So Randy, we pretty well are on schedule with going forward on Adams on your end?
Yes, we are, with the plans. is scheduled for this spring letting. The only thing that would delay that would be the possibly working through the special assessment that has been offered to the property owners. But it's in progress also.
The next page of the debt service information shows the calculation for our legal debt limit. We are well within our range, our authority to be issuing with what's outstanding, as well as the proposed issuance for next fiscal year, roughly at 11.5 million. Our total legal debt limit is just over 46 million, so we're well within our range. No issues there. But that's what this next page shows is what it looks like, that legal debt limit calculation and what our debt capacity is. If you wanted to see all the detail with all the numbers and the debt repayments from the ENCO report, that's under tab T, but I'm not gonna plan on going to that tab, but it's tab T. Are there any questions about either tab C, the capital stuff, or tab D, the debt information at this point?
Laura, I'm just curious, if you were to look at, I mean, maybe the information's in here somewhere else, but looking at other towns around us or even our size, where are they running for legal debt limit percentage? Do you
I
know?
don't know. We really haven't, really pulled any of the communities. If that's something you want us to do, we can sure look into it further.
It's not right now, but I just was curious if you had known or if you had seen or if anything
No.
was jumping out at you, so.
No,
This-
I don't know.
This seems, I can't remember from last year, but this seems low.
It is. I would, PFM would confirm that we are very low compared to some other communities, of course. I know Mike has made comment, being in Johnston, that they have a very high
Mhm.
debt outstanding.
Right.
But of course, you're talking Johnston metro area
Yep.
versus Carroll, Iowa.
And remind me that we can be up to what percentage?
5% of your total assessed
Right.
property in your community.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no questions about that information, then we will jump right into the different departmental requests. And first we have Brad with the police department.
Thank you. Page 39 is my cover sheet, and I'll work mostly off that, but I'll guide you to the other pages too for some more in-depth information. Not much change from year to year, so I'll let you guys get to that point. Okay, so it's tab F, page 87 is the general fund, if you want to look at that in more depth. Our revenues stay pretty much the same. Our major revenue comes from fines and fees, and that stays pretty constant every year. Our expenses is, of course, our huge part. We don't have our revenues that meet our expenses. Our personnel costs, which is salaries, including benefits, so retirement, insurance, also uniform, training, dues and membership, travel. That is 89% of our budget. And you'll see an increase from last year to this year, mainly due to salary increases. We'll see for percentage-wise on that one. Our service commodity is, I think it's about 8% of our total budget. 8.2%. And that one is all of our, kind of our utilities. So we got electric, gas, telephone. We have court costs in there also, which I guess we don't pay that anymore. It's changed that it comes out of our fines and fees. Our repair and maintenance of equipment, vehicles, and building is all part of that one also. And that one's $169,495. Pretty much similar to last year. Any major increases on that, I believe, are from looks like our major increases on that comes from R&M of building, correction, that's a decrease. It's like we got some vehicle supplies, equipment costs. Of course, that goes up every year too, so we have that. And then our phones, we have some increases with that. In the past, we've paid for our air cards through our crime prevention account. We changed from Verizon to AT&T FirstNet this last year. The bill it used to come separate, now it all comes together. So kind of for ease of paying the bill, we're moving that all to the general fund, so that does make a little bit of an increase too through that account also. Our capital outlay, not much of an increase this year. We have one vehicle replacement, actually addition. We're not gonna trade off one vehicle. We're gonna add to our fleet. And then some other capital items that we have too. We're gonna buy a dart training simulator. We'd like to. That money's gonna come out of our crime prevention and our forfeiture account, so we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but that won't come out of the general fund account. That comes out of our special use accounts.
What are you gonna do with the car that you're not gonna trade in?
So we've come into several situations where I don't have a car. I'm assigned my personal vehicle and I get a monthly allowance. When we get calls, one recent one was the shooting at Fairview. I don't have the equipment in there. Mainly it's the communication stuff. So I get on scene, I have no idea what's going on because it's all been done through our computer system. Another one was we had the pursuit where the guy was holding his girlfriend hostage, trying to set up perimeters, and it's all based off of our locations from our GPS and our vehicles. I'm running blind at that point, so when I'm trying to set up perimeters, it's based off of where I remember people said they were at, so it comes a little bit difficult. So I'll sign one car to myself, which will remove the car allowance then from our budget also. Our trade-in value last year, I believe, was $13,000, so that's the difference we'll see for not trading off a vehicle for the purchase of a car. So that's the plan with keeping that car. So I will have one assigned to myself.
The squad car you're buying, electric or?
We'll stick with the hybrid. We've had pretty good luck with them maintenance-wise, and we get, on our regular patrol vehicles that are not hybrid, we get 12 miles per gallon. Our hybrids are getting between 20 and 21. So pretty big increase there for fuel savings. Also, we don't have to service them as often. We service every other month on the hybrids instead of every month. So we've had good luck with them. Maintenance has been no issues. Some of the early maintenance on the first hybrid we bought was all covered under warranty, so we'll thank the dealerships for that one. But after that, we really haven't had much.
Brad, how long have you had a hybrid now? Is it 2 years yet?
No, at least 3.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
you've got
4.
significant mileage on at least one of them?
It's got almost probably 60 to 70,000 on it right now.
Good.
So quite a bit.
We don't have a full electric.
No. I don't think there's any police full electric vehicles. I know Mustang's looking at the Mach-E. Kyle may be able to give us more on that one, but I don't think it's been designated police pursuit rated at this point. But I know it's being worked on it. They did it through the testing this last year, but I'm not sure where that went. I couldn't tell you the cost difference on one of those either.
Yeah, they're like, right now, like a base, if you or I are coming to buy them, they're probably 70 grand.
Ooh.
So, and then you have charging stations and whatnot, so.
Yeah, quite a bit higher. So hybrids worked well for us. We do see some fuel savings and some service savings on that, so.
Right, have you guys ever looked at a pickup? I know like some towns do.
We probably will,
Sure.
when our captain vehicle comes to that point, we may look at that. We have some use for it, but maybe not as much as some of the counties and things like that, so.
I was just thinking like trade-in value wise in the future, if like they're holding value.
A little bit better.
A little bit better, but.
Yeah, the Explorers aren't great on trade-in values, but, I mean, they've gone up from the Crown Vic, so
Yeah.
we're seeing a little bit there.
So now that we can drive UTVs, in some cities I see UTVs in the police departments. Any thoughts on that?
The county has one, the sheriff's department have, that we have access to if we want to use it, and we have for the last, as long as they've had it, 5 years probably. We used it once at state baseball and that's it. So I don't know if we have a
They
huge
use it
need for it at this point.
Parades.
Yeah.
All right.
So I wouldn't say we have a huge need for it right now. If even on trails, our cars fit on the trails and stuff with no issues. So we just haven't had a huge need for it. If we do need one for some reason, the sheriff has opened his up to us, and it's right in the basement of the jail. So we got full access to it if needed.
All right.
It's nice that they can spend the money on that. We could use it when we need to. So that works out really well. So total expenses for the police department budget out of the general fund is $2,116,089, and that is an increase from last year, of course, of a little over 8%. Like I said, largest increase we're seeing is probably coming from personnel services.
I think we mentioned last week, or when we met at the last council meeting, we have tentatively scheduled union negotiations this Thursday, weather permitting. And so hopefully, with any luck, we'll get done in 1 or 2 days of that, and we'll be able to have a more concrete number to include in budgets, not just for the police, but for all of the departments. And hopefully it will it will be favorable.
We'll have to wait and see. The second page of my cover letter here is the communications tab, so that if you want to look at that budget specifically, it's page 92. This will be the first year that we are at our set fee. This last year, we had some overlay from the last quarter from the prior budget year, and plus the set fee. So now this will be the first time that we are at 150,000 per year for the hopefully unforeseeable future. So let's go on that one as we go.
Brad, do you know what the entire budget is for the comm center?
I don't. I just talked with Jason Hoffman. He's the communications director over there. And he had just started putting pencil to paper. So he didn't really have anything completed yet, but he didn't have any major projects going on either. So it'd be pretty much what we saw last year.
But would it be safe to assume that it's in the 600,000 range?
Probably getting close. Because if we paid
Figure in my
about
head,
250 per year prior to us going to this new contract with them. So yeah, they're probably right near 600,000 for the contract.
This is potentially a 50% discount. I mean, if we were paying half, we'd be paying 100 or 300,000.
Probably close to 300 this coming year.
Good.
We were kind of that way about 4 or 5 years ago. We were pretty high with that.
Yeah.
Yep, and of course it depends on what they have going on for projects too, because we get stuck with some of that also if we're splitting costs. And E91 pays for a lot of expenses for equipment, but if they add, I think before when they were discussing, they were going to add a couple dispatchers, and so of course that made an increase to us. So
They added a body last year, didn't they? Thought they did, maybe not.
if it wasn't last year, it might have been the year before.
Okay.
But I believe that going forward, they still would like to add one more. I think that was when we
Still
started.
another one.
When we were discussing getting into a flat fee, at that point, they wanted 2, and I don't believe the board agreed to that, so it's still on the horizon, I think. Page 93 is our disaster services. That is our outdoor weather siren system. And main expense for that is electrical. We do have some maintenance stuff that we have to check batteries and replace batteries every once in a while and have company come out and do some minor repairs for us. But outside of that, all of our sirens function. They function well with very little issues. They're battery backup systems, so they run on electrical unless the power goes out. And they're all operated through our comm center, so it works out pretty well. And we've used them probably average once a year for an actual storm. And then we test them every Monday kind of through the tornado season.
And are there 12? Is that right?
12 of them. Yep. And looking at the growth kind of patterns for the city and the map, when the federal put them in, we should be okay for quite a while. Based off of, they give us a map with diagrams showing their coverage area, and we look like we're pretty good coverage. If you go south of McFarland and even out in the Collison addition out there with that new addition area, that we should be okay. Page 207, this will get into our special accounts. This is the police forfeiture account.
Tab S.
Yep, tab S, page 207.
Going that way, otherwise I've got the summary stuff on the screen.
Most of this money comes from anything that's forfeited on a case. So it's not a large account by any means. Our ending balance projected to be $16,454,000. And we're gonna take $5,000 out of this to pay for a portion of the DART training simulator.
Brad, can you tell the council what a DART simulator is?
So the DART training simulator is, it's a scenario-based training system. So it comes with a screen, a computer system, and it projects a situation up on the screen, and then the officers have to react to it. So it's a de-escalation, use of force, it covers everything. It comes with a pistol that operates with the machine. It comes with pepper spray, taser that operate with the machine, and it puts the officers into the situation where they have to make that quick split-second decision on what they're going to do. Also, de-escalation. You can use it for specific just firearms training for new officers or someone that needs some help with kind of working on sight picture, things like that. So the sergeants brought this up a little last year or the year prior, and so we're just kind of getting around to the budgeting for it at this point now.
How long do these last, Brad, and then do they just do updates on
Yeah, most of it's gonna be software. Once you get the hardware, you're pretty much set. So then you have some software updates that may come every few years. That don't have a really good answer on what or how often that is. When they sold it to us, I think it's a 3 or 5 year warranty, and that covered a lot of that upgrades and stuff. And then after that, we'll have to look into
I think
making any
that's pretty
changes. So,
Yeah.
and it's portable, so we can take it and move it. That was kind of one of the ideas, is we could take it out to a school and we do some of our trainings out there, or wherever we're at, outdoor events. We can set it up and do training that way. So, it's pretty portable, pretty easy to use. We've had some in the past that we've set up from I think Homeland Security had one many years ago that we set up in the office, and it kind of scares you a little bit. So it's good training though.
It's interesting, Kyle, that they might show, you'll get a dispatch call to a situation, and of course, everybody's on edge because they know something could happen, but they'll show a situation and somebody reaches into the trunk and you end up shooting them. It turns out they're reaching for a loaf of bread. They'll show the same situation exactly, and only this time they're reaching for a shotgun. And so you don't know from one instance to the next, but it's basically training the officers to be observant to all the factors around them. And it's a judgmental thing, so that hopefully it never happens. But if we ever had a court case that came up because of it, instead of just showing that we went to the range and shot holes in paper targets, we can talk about the exercising judgment and analyzing situations.
Let's see, tab S still, page 209 is Crime Prevention Fund. And most of the revenue funds from this one comes from, we do vehicle inspections for salvage vehicles before they get licensed back on the road. So we do those inspections and we get paid back from the state for those. That's what most of that money comes from. And then we use this to usually purchase equipment. We've used it in the past to purchase, I think, a vehicle at one point when the fund got high enough. This is where we'll use $10,000 out of this to pay for the rest of the portion for that dart training simulator, is the plan for that one. So our projected end balance after next year will be $29,168 for that account. So it gets up there, but it's not a huge account by any means, but it's nice to have that to pay for any other equipment that we may need or looking at adding to the department. The final page of my cover sheet, no changes for personnel. We're still at 16 full-time, 1 part-time officer, and that includes an administrative assistant, 3 sergeants, a captain, myself, and 10 patrol officers. So our capital request will have from the general fund will be the vehicle replacement. That's the $51,399. And we also have every year $6,500 for office software, computer replacement, so that computer, printers, copy machine, whatever needs to be replaced, that's part of that fund. And then the $15,000 for the police equipment additional for the dart training simulator, $10,000 from crime prevention, and $5,000 from the police forfeiture account. And that wraps mine up.
Good. Any other questions for Brad? Pretty straightforward.
Brad,
Thanks, Brad.
did you have anything in here that you had to take out just looking at?
The one thing that and this will, we'll look at this every year, is that we're gonna need to do some parking lot improvements in our back parking lot between us and the library. We'll have some issues at some point too, but we got some damage. Randy believes it's from some heavy vehicles that were operated on it quite a few years back. Now I think we're getting some frost damage, and so we have a lot of cracking and broken items back there. So we'll look at that. So that was one item that we did have in there that we did remove out of the budget for the next fiscal year.
We also talked, Misty, about the possibility of having the street department do, Randy, what was the dimension, did you say on that, did you think?
60 by 40?
60 by 30.
60.
Having our own street department do the work, and then the budgeted part would be the concrete. And what did we estimate that at, 8,000, was it?
Approximately.
So that's something that conceivably might be done if there's some downtime with the street department. We'd have to find $8,000 somewhere, but Laura said she could do that, so. With a smile.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, I saw the department received the gift from Pella.
We did. That was unexpected.
Yeah.
They called us, must have been about Thanksgiving, and said they had applied for this grant through the Pella Corporation for us, and then we received it about Christmas time. So unexpected. We didn't really know it was coming. I'm glad it did. So we'll use it. It's going to go to our is it forfeiture or crime prevention? We put it in one of those accounts, so
Crime prevention.
it'll help pay for this dart training simulator for this next year.
My
So.
question for you is, you mentioned you wanted to use it to put it toward equipping the new car?
That was when because we were still kind of organizing our budget where we're gonna be at, so that was what our thought was.
So you're good though, having enough money for that equipment?
Yes.
You wanna make sure you have it?
Yep, after our re-estimates, we got things kind of straightened out with
Oh,
Laura,
okay,
so.
good.
So yeah, it's gonna go towards the crime prevention, it'll go towards the, dark training simulator.
Good, thank you.
Anything else for Brad? Okay, thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go on to, let's see, kind of the admin section. You're gonna cover that?
Yep, I'm gonna go through the overview pages, starting on page 63. To get there. Okay, so this stuff is what we call, the administrative side of the budget. All the more detailed line items are under tab K for your reference. However, I'm just gonna go through the overview stuff. So the first section, legislative and executive, that's mayor, council pay and travel expenses, and any other minor, supplies that need to be had, but no change there from actually a number of years. It's same as usual. Under the section called financial administration, you're gonna see a decrease in expenses requested in fiscal '24, and that largely has to do with some of the things that we're doing in fiscal '23 that relates to, the city manager's search expenses are under the services and commodities. Encode upgrade, we're on the Encode list to upgrade our software from what's called version 9 to version 10. It just takes a while to work through the process. We actually have not started working with them yet, but they have contacted me periodically every few months saying, yep, you're still on the list, you're still on the list. We just haven't started that process. So that monies are allocated in fiscal '23. If it doesn't get spent, we'll ask council to move that over to fiscal '24. I'm just not sure when we're gonna start for sure, when we're gonna make those expenditures. But it's all in fiscal '23 right now. And then our biggest change in the capital outlay, in fiscal '23, we replaced our server. We still are not quite done, but most of the expenses are paid for right now. But then in fiscal '24, we usually allocate just a little bit of money for a couple computer replacements throughout the year. And then everything else that, pretty much is our day-to-day operations and the financial administration. That's the operations here at City Hall. Same number of, full-time personnel requested. We talked about computer replacements. Then the next section, elections. We will have a city election in the fall. So that's why there's the difference from 0 to roughly 4,000. I did talk to the county auditor, and she's still seeing election expenses being very similar to what they've been in the last couple of years. The next section, legal services, are attorney fees, not anticipating anything major there, so the same request. The next section, City Hall, general building, that's a lot of the upkeep stuff here at City Hall, as well as a little bit of monies for minor repair work at the museum. We actually have about $5,000 in fiscal '23 to do some wall repair at the museum, which has not been completed at this time. Otherwise, it's pretty much business as usual with the City Hall. We're not looking, or hopefully not anticipating any major building issues. Same number of full-time employment. Our building maintenance specialist is split. A third of his salary is charged to the rec center and 2/3 to the City Hall general building fund. The next section for the tort liability, this is our liability, property, and worker comp insurance. I did talk to our agent at Mid-Iowa and had been advised to build in a 17% increase for the liability and the property insurance. They're just seeing rates just go.
That's what the county got hit, was 17.
Well, and I was told that ICAP, our carrier, is automatically, so ICAP over the number of years, as long as I can remember, they automatically will increase your building values because they base their rates upon replacement cost of your buildings. They automatically, the past number of years, had increased it 2 or 3%, all along the way. This year, I'm being told they will increase it minimum 10%. So we can look forward to that at a minimum 10% increase in all of our building replacement costs. That's the highest that it's ever been since I've been here. And then whatever they do with how they do their adjusting for rates and And then there's about an 8% increase built in for worker comp, and it's all based upon, a lot of it is based upon whatever your wages are, and then the formula that IMWCA walks through, and what kind of discounts and things you'll get. I'm assuming our models stay at least the same, hopefully not go up. Hopefully it goes down a little bit, but I'm anticipating probably at least the same. So yeah, overall, it's about a 14% increase built into this. Hopefully that gets us in the ballpark. Then this last section here is what we call our miscellaneous general fund. Kind of like if an expenditure really doesn't have a home, it goes here. It's from, some of it is, the 10,000 is our wellness program. We try to have employees do some wellness things and incentivize it, as well as, do blood draw screenings for the employees, flu shots. We offer some of those things for our employees. And then, just like I said, if there's, it doesn't really have a home, or it relates to the whole population of all the city employees, pre-employment physicals, can't even remember what else is in this section.
Shoes.
I'm sorry.
Shoes.
Safety shoes or?
And actually, those will go to each individual department, depends on who's requesting the shoes. But the Cat 6 production cost, that's gonna be the biggest portion of this request here, is that. Okay, and then the next section here is general fund transfers. So our biggest transfer in, of this 970,000 is the tax collected for employee benefits. There's a couple other smaller ones, but that's just gonna be your biggest portion there. Nothing, major or change from last year. Transfers out, actually these two that you see here relate to the city's match for the airport lighting project. It's being accounted for in a different capital projects fund, and the city's match is being proposed to use general fund monies for the match. I did get a quick update from the engineer on that project late last week. So my understanding is how the whole airport world works when it comes to capital projects, and you're getting an FAA funding. The engineer prepares the plans, the FAA has to review the plans, and then they'll make offer or suggestions, probably more requirements to changes to the plans. They got those back and said, hey, you need to change this, this, and this, and the engineer believes it's probably gonna cost more than what he originally had estimated. So that is not built into this budget if the plan comes in higher than the engineer's estimate. So if it does, we'll have to find
So
somebody.
is it still 90-10?
It'll still be a 90-10
Okay.
split, yes. Yep, I did confirm that with him.
So we're talking another 10 to 20,000?
Probably somewhere between 20 to 25,000 as an engineer's estimate. Hopefully bids come in very favorable and that it won't be that high, but time will tell. My understanding is they are planning on trying to get this bid out and done this summer. So I think I read that in the minutes. that they were trying to
Yeah,
do this
Yeah,
summer.
it wasn't.
right, yeah. As one project,
It's one project, yes, as one project.
so you're not progressing,
Right.
kicking the can down the road, you have inflation.
I remember they talked originally about doing it over 2 budget years, but
Yeah.
they would have economies of scale doing it all at once.
Yeah,
And then
well-
doing the taxiway and both runways.
And if I
So-
remember correctly, visiting with Greg about it, he said the FAA was pushing to break it down into 3 separate projects, bidding each portion, and he talked to him, and I think they have them on track for one, yeah, save money.
So we'll see how bids come in, and then we'll have a discussion with the engineers and such and how things go. It might be that the city's funding it definitely will probably come over, it's coming over a couple fiscal years anyway. But
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not worried that we'll make it work. Okay, so that is the admin section area that I was gonna cover tonight. Let me look at my notes here real quick. Sorry, one more page here. The next section here is the general revenues. So this is the tax asking portion, which we've talked quite a bit about this already the other night, about what the levy is being proposed as well as the 225,000. lines from the state. Yep, the backfill, the 2 different backfills that we're anticipating to receive next year. We're phasing out of the one property tax rollback, and then we're being implemented a new business property tax replacement. So, out of that section, does anybody have any questions about the few items we covered there?
Going once? I think we're good.
Well, I know we have scheduled for food to be delivered here around 6:30. Instead of starting in on Public Works, if you don't mind, Randy, if I can keep going on in the other areas for just a few more minutes until, and then food comes, and then we'll break, and then we can pick up with Public Works at that point, if that's okay.
You're driving.
Okay.
So tab E. Okay.
So still on some of the cover pages, moving back up to page 47, is the, health and social services portion of the budget. This is what we typically have called our outside funding requests. We have requested and asked for a couple of agencies to come in on Wednesday to make their presentation, because they did ask for an increase in their letters that you had received. However, the increases were not incorporated into this funding request, or in this budget proposal. So, okay, so that was page 47 information. Then moving ahead to page 62 is the economic and development portion of the budget.
Laura, hold
Yeah.
up, sorry, you just said, so some of these people are asking, but we're not, right? They're not in
We
here?
did not, we couldn't get them to fit into this year's budget proposal.
So,
They're at the same level of funding as they were in fiscal '23.
As presented, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so the next section here is the community and economic development portion.
What page?
It is
62.
page 62. We heard from Carroll County Growth Partnership tonight, and you see their funding request was not an increase from fiscal '23 to fiscal '24. So it is presented as, or built in here as what they had requested. The next is housing. The main thing in there is, there was a request for $2,000 for the Housing Trust Fund that Region 12 ministers. That's the same request as been for the last few years.
You say 2,000?
2,000, then there's another 1,000 for other miscellaneous things that
Okay.
might come up with housing. Planning and zoning, this is if somebody needs to work with the planning and zoning department, plats, subdivisions, stuff like that. There's a minor fee that we charge for that, and then we'll have some recording fees with it. Fiscal '23 does include an extra $2,000 under the services and commodities, because we are entered into a contract with Region 12 to update or to review our subdivision ordinance. That project has not started yet, but we are in a contract with them for $2,000 for that. Moving ahead a couple pages to page 68. Is the hotel and motel tax fund. I think Chad stepped out. We might have to, he can touch on some of his stuff, area, because actually a lot of what's in here does relate to Parks and Rec, but I will steer your attention to the running total sheet that was tucked in on the inside binder of your budget book.
Under hotel motel or
There
lost?
should be, there are both of them.
Yeah, but which
right
one are
now,
you?
hotel, motel.
Hotel, okay.
Yep. So we're anticipating probably, hopefully very conservatively, 205,000 for hotel motel actual tax collections. You can see a couple of years ago, that was more around the COVID year, it really tanked, and then it did come back in fiscal '22. I'm hoping it stays up in that 240,000, but I conservatively only included 205,000. And then you can see a bunch of the different funding requests that are in here, things that we either have paid or plan to pay in fiscal '23. and then what's being requested in fiscal '24. A lot of this stuff does relate to park improvement items. So for instance, in fiscal '23, we do have some monies allocated for the band shell improvements. We have 30,000 in here, however, I don't know as if we have a really good estimate number at this point. So I know we'll have to do more research on what actually will be the expense with that project. And then in fiscal '24, the request is to do some electrical upgrades and improvements at a couple of parks, Grant Park and Rolling Hills Park, and to put a heater in the south side shelter house. And if you have more questions, more specifics, you can talk to Chad when we actually go.
Here he is.
There he is.
I'm right here. On pizza duty, sorry.
Yeah, well, he can talk more about that. He's planning on presenting Parks and Rec stuff on Wednesday.
What is the hotel tax rate?
Yeah,
7%.
and is that the max?
Yes,
Okay,
7%.
7%, yep, and we are at the max.
okay. Thanks for asking that.
A couple other comments about this is the Chamber's tourism promotion request of 30,000 has been built into this, as well as the Merchants Park Improvements Project. I did make a note here that the amount that's been tagged out of hotel motel is contingent upon that project, well, if it gets funded by a Destination Iowa grant and then the total cost of the project. There are a number of funding sources that are planned to be used to pay for that project. We're still waiting to hear on the grant board. So going forward, that number may go up or down. So at the end of fiscal '24, if everything comes in as planned, the balance is roughly around 111,000, though some of that is gonna be where Chad can talk more about too, the theater improvements. We are carrying and allocating some monies out of this to do some theater improvements, though I don't believe there's been a big discussion yet had on what that necessarily will look like. So I know there's a lot of unknowns, but any improvements at the theater, we would like to use hotel motel tax to do that. Okay, any questions about the hotel motel at this point? And we can also talk more about it, since a lot of it is park and rec related stuff, on Wednesday when Chad presents his side of the budget. Then we'll continue on. The electric franchise fee is here on the summary pages on page 69. We're early into the collections on these, and we've only had, I think, one full year of collections, and it's been around 100, somewhere between 100 and 105,000. So that's what I'm estimating to receive 23 and 24. And right now, the transfer out is to go towards a street project. At this point, that's kind of where we're leaning to use a lot of this funding, is going towards street projects into the future. Page 70 is the federal fund, special revenue fund. This is the ARPA money that the city has received. So we've received all of the money. I made some notes here real quick. We've received all the money, which was just a little over $1.4 million, and $572,600 has been obligated at this point of those funds, going towards Merchants Park at $100,000, $72,600 for the rec center project, and then $400,000 for housing incentives. That's the $20,000 per home that's built. So that still leaves just under $898,000 to be obligated at some point. So we have some discussions to be had on where council would like that funding to go.
Does that have to be spent or allocated by '24?
It has to be allocated by '24, and has to be spent by December 31st of '26.
So if you allocate it to something, can you take it and use it somewhere else if it's not
Yeah.
used for that?
Mhm.
I'm just thinking like maybe a grant match program, something like that, later on down the road.
We would just have to make sure it's within the guidelines. They're somewhat vague guidelines, but there are some guidelines that you would need to use them for, and there are some specific things, I don't have it listed on here, there are some specific things you can't use it for, which would be items that I don't think we would entertain to use it for anyway. I think like pension funding, like to fund a pension liability, for a rainy day fund. It's intended that this needs to go towards, improvements and things and not to be held on to.
Can't be ongoing expenses, right?
Ongoing, that would be up to council to decide if they wanted to.
Probably wouldn't want to.
But
No,
you
you would, I didn't think
Yeah,
you could.
you wouldn't want to.
I know you wouldn't want to,
Because
but I
That's
didn't
with
think
the
you
Laverne, I
could.
thought it couldn't be, I thought it had to be specific, tied to earmarked projects. But I know they've loosened it up.
Oh, it was really tight
I don't
when it
know if
first
they've
came out.
loosened, yeah, right.
Laura, would the projects that Brad talked about behind the police station and library be something, I mean, that's, I don't want to call it a one-time, but it'd be once every 30-year thing, would that be something?
So I would need to double check to make sure it's not one of those prohibited. Because yes, they did change the rules from when the money was first allocated out to everybody, where you needed to try to figure out if it was going to be able to fit in one of these 4 categories. But then the government came out, and the federal government came out and said, hey, if you're a small receiver of the grant, under 10 million, that's what they consider small, if we got not even 1.5 million, then you could basically use it for any lawful purpose.
Yeah.
As long as it was not one of those other prohibited ones, and I need to look up what they are, but I know whatever they were, it was something that we would not want to do anyway.
Urbandale was in the news not too long ago, and their council just voted 2 weeks ago to allocate 1.5 million of their ARPA funds to revitalize their retail space. I guess they're on, their main street, I can't remember the name of it, but it's just like their downtown is just run down.
Yes,
So
I
they're
think I
doing
saw
a lot
that
of
too.
things like Kyle has brought up, so that's what they're using, some of their.
Facade stuff.
Yeah, facades and just, they have little grocery stores and, yeah, and it's just, yeah, the pictures, they need to do it. It's bad, so,
So yeah, the only thing that I would say we'd have to make sure we're doing on something like that is making sure we spend the money when it needs to be spent.
right, right,
And something like that, if we would
Yeah.
make sure something like that. But yeah, that would be considered a lawful purpose. So yeah, things to think about on how to fund and invest the ARPA funds. Okay, then I'm gonna skip ahead now to page 73, which is the local option sales tax fund. So that is the other piece of paper that was tucked inside your budget binder, is a tally of the local option sales tax. We have been seeing around 1.9 to $2 million of collections the last couple of years. And we have, spent a lot, well, we do 25% of tax relief, and we put that towards the debt service levy. Then, debt issuance was done for the rec center building project that we tied to this funding stream, so that's being shown in here as well. We've also, historically, are showing that we plan to continue to use a big portion of the collections for street rehab projects. And we are showing that the golf course pump station irrigation system is, actually it's just the pump house, it's not the irrigation system, is coming from this funding source as well. And then a few other, I'm gonna call them smaller items. Well, this one's not terribly small. The golf carts, we're proposing to use local option sales tax to fund those purchases, and then a few other parks requests are in here as well. At the end of fiscal '24, we're showing a rough balance of around $550,000.
How often does that money come in during the year?
Monthly.
Now, that's a change too, isn't it? We get
We
that
have
now.
always received it monthly. It is a little bit of a change this year, where in the past, the Iowa Department of Revenue had estimated how much money you would get for the year and gave you set monthly amounts throughout the year, and then did a true-up payment, which we typically received in November.
Right.
This year, they changed it, where now you are getting actual collections that are remitted to the state. You remit your sales tax one month, the state does their reapportioning and allocations to all the different tax entities according to the formula they have to use, and you get the actual collections. Now, how that's gonna trend with last year's way of doing things to this new way. I'm not sure yet, it's too early to know. I'm assuming we should stay still in that same ballpark of what historical collections have been. That's what I'm showing here. So hopefully over time, as we're seeing real collections come in, we might hopefully see an increase. Does anybody have any other questions about the local option sales tax fund and what is being shown as projects that we wanted to fund out of these?
Anyone?
No, but could we go back to the pavement between the library and police station? That's a small project. Maybe this is a question for Randy and Brad, but to get bids, maybe not with the Adams Street project, but then we aren't doing full reconstruction for 3 more years. But then we're doing some streets, multiple streets, like we're doing this year. Would we probably tack that on to a street project? Because maybe we wouldn't get many bids for such a small project. So could we kind of think of that for maybe the next, I don't know, whenever, but tack it on to a street project? Randy, is that what we could do or
Sure.
should do, or I don't know?
It is, and I guess the proposal that I would float to you is within this current budget proposal, there is what's called a CBD street resurfacing. The theory on that was once the corridor project was completed, that we would then move that TIF money to resurfacing the streets within the central business district. It worked out really well. We did a little bit on Court Street and on Fifth Street, east of Court here in the past several years. So I propose that this parking lot be included in that project and funded with the TIF funds from the area. And there's other parking lots downtown we would also do some work in, but it's all within the central business district and, you know, their own municipal parking lots. So that's an alternative to consider, and that's what
That's a
we
good
plan on
idea.
doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
What'd you call this, CB?
CBD?
Central
CBD,
Business District,
okay, CBD, okay.
Street resurfacing.
Yeah.
I'll go into it just a little bit later,
Okay,
but that would be the proposal for the parking lot behind the police and library.
that sounds good.
And
Okay.
Randy, from what we looked at that last week, part of that is pavement, part of it's an asphalt overlay, is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Did you get through what you wanted to get through?
It's not everything, but I say we break, and
Okay.
then, after break, we'll pick up with Randy's discussion on areas, and then we can pick up the few little things that are left under the other areas.
Okay. So no need for a motion to just break, right?
No, we'll just
Yeah,
break
we'll just
and-
break and then come back.
Yep, and we'll come back when it's.
Everybody good with that? Okay. Okay, about ready, almost 7. So we've been through some of these, so we'll just move on over to Public Works then, correct? Good with that?
Yes,
Ready to go?
I am ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll start out with Public Works in the general fund. The cover sheet begins on page E45, tab E, page 45. Within the general fund for Public Works, there's several areas, sections. They include street construction, road maintenance, street lighting, administration, the city garage, central business district, and then some transfers. And those are in tab, the detailed line item portion of the budget is in tab G, tab J, and tab L. But continuing on, in the street construction part of the budget, we've got a proposed capital outlay of $5,000 for detectable warning panels. Those we purchase every year. What we use those for, they're for inventory. Our street department uses them whenever we construct pedestrian curb ramps. We also sell them to local contractors when they construct sidewalk curb ramps so that they don't have to go get them someplace else. And then at times, we've written them into our capital construction contracts where the city would supply the panels. And we use a certain panel, have decided that the cast iron panel is the one to use. It's quite a bit more expensive than some of the other composites, but it lasts longer, considerably longer than any other. The roadway maintenance portion of the budget is for expenditures of the street department that are not eligible for road use tax expenditure. Things like putting up Christmas decorations, not necessarily a road use tax expenditure. So we funded that type of expenditure out of the general fund. Street lighting, the city leases street lights. Right now, there are about 800 street lights in the city. The city garage portion of the budget includes, the operation and maintenance for the new street maintenance facility, as well as continuing using the older facility. So we're really trying to estimate what the expenses are going to be in a new facility like that. It's quite a bit larger, but it's quite a bit more energy efficient also. We do have a few capital purchases proposed, replacement of our radio system or portions of the system, a floor scrubber and vacuum for the new building. The central business district portion of the general fund budget is for funding the work that goes on in the central business district, mostly as a result of the Corridor of Commerce streetscape projects. There's always some planting replacement needed. Half of the budget is street lighting. Those street lights are owned by the city, and we pay an electrical bill for them. And right now, there are about 556 of those street lights in the central business district. The transfer is for pedestrian curb ramp construction. You recall the city does have a transition plan for construction of pedestrian curb ramps. That's required. The curb ramp transition plan is a federal requirement, and the city does have that. This year, we'll anticipate building about 46 new ped ramps or replacements actually on this Adams Street project. We're funding about 1.9 full-time equivalent employees out of the general fund. And that's about it for a summary of the Public Works General Fund, unless there are any questions. Okay. The next section is the Road Use Tax Fund, and it is in tab E, or the cover sheet's tab E, page 71. And of course, the road use tax fund includes the road maintenance, snow removal, street cleaning, administration, and those are, the detail sheets are under tab O, page 165. The initiatives for the next year in the road use tax fund include the Adams Street reconstruction project, as well as beginning design of the street resurfacing 2024 project. The revenue in the road use tax fund, of course, is from road use tax. Next year estimated at $130 per capita that the city will fund receive, and that's just over $1.3 million total. We do fund 7.9 full-time equivalent personnel from the road use tax fund. We do have a proposal for the replacement of a heavy-duty truck and then the pavement management system as capital expenditures proposed in the road use tax fund. Other than that, that's really a highlight of the road use tax fund, unless there are any questions.
Remind me, what's the heavy-duty truck? What are, like, that's pretty high. I just can't remember how big of a truck. What are we looking at?
Oh, that's our regular snowplow truck.
That's okay.
It's what we're proposing is a truck, a sander, a front plow, and an underbody plow. So it'll be a complete unit. And yes, the prices have gone up.
Yeah.
Randy, this is another one.
Yes, yes, we've ordered the one that has a year-plus delivery on it, so that one had been awarded. This is another one.
Do they have a timeline on that truck yet?
No, have not received any timeline on it.
That sound familiar? I just
Yes.
asked him about it Friday.
We had actually, in the 5-year capital improvement program last year, we did have street sweeper replacement for this 2024 fiscal year. And we flipped it over and decided to propose the heavy-duty truck and move the sweeper back 1 year. So
Do you have any more of these trucks in the near future that are gonna be replaced?
I don't have that schedule with me. I don't believe there are any more in the 5-year program,
Okay.
but I can check the replacement schedule that we have. Any other questions on road use tax? Okay. The next portion of the Public Works budget is the capital projects under the cover sheets, tab E, page 74. There are 3 basic sections to it: streets, corridor of commerce, and street maintenance facility. The initiatives for next year, again, include the Adams Street reconstruction. This is where it'll actually be expended. Street resurfacing design, and then also the CBD street resurfacing, beginning the design work for that calendar year 24 construction. The revenue combination of transfers in general fund, local option sales tax, and then sewer utility with TIF repayment, excuse me. The projects I mentioned include those 3 plus sidewalk construction. And that's, let's see, a balance projected at the end of that fiscal year at just over $1.1 million in the streets portion of it. In the corridor portion, what we have done is funded the consultant expenditure in this current year. There was some expended, and then nothing from that point on. So the project obviously terminated. There is, however, in the fund, this budget has a $1.14 million balance sitting in the fund. So that disposition will need to be decided at some point in time. But for the purposes of this budget, it's identified in that fund. Street maintenance facility, we're anticipating completing construction during the current fiscal year with the balance of about $907,000. And then, of course, no expenditures in next fiscal year. No capital expenditures for that. Unless there are any questions, that is the capital projects fund. Okay, next part is the water utility fund. It is, the cover sheet is in tab E, page 78, beginning on page 78. Of course, it includes the operational budget for the water utility, a depreciation fund, capital improvement fund, and meter deposit fund. And within the operation, we fund the administration, the water treatment plant operation and maintenance, high service pump station, the wells, distribution system, the accounts and collections, and then there are a few transfers. Those are included on tab W. The revenue portion of the water utility is through metered water in a rate structure is estimated about $1.5 million. That rate has not increased or not changed since July of 17. So we're in pretty good shape right now for that fund. Full 7.1 full-time employees funded from the water utility fund. And our capitals include meters. We have purchased meters every year, obviously, insurance, depreciation, and then our capital improvements, which we're proposing the water main replacement project, which the consultant contract had been awarded earlier. So it's under design right now. We're also proposing high service pump station pump replacement. We've got one pump that is in need of replacement. So the proposal is to do a significant upgrade to that pump, go to variable speed, and at an estimated cost of about $300,000. Balance in the water utility fund at the end of next fiscal year is projected to be about $2.8 million. A pretty healthy fund. Capitals, I went over with the two projects being proposed. The depreciation part of the budget, there's an allocation annually that in the amount of $50,000 from the water utility to the depreciation fund. The theory on that is to replace any equipment mostly that was originally constructed in the water treatment plant. And we did do that when the filters were upgraded here a few years ago. The funding was expended from this depreciation. Otherwise, that fund balance is increasing at about projected to be $1.1 million. And meter deposit is just a kind of a pass-through. We receive deposits on water meters from rental units. And then when that renter moves out, the deposit is refunded. So it's pretty much just in and out every year. Are there any questions on the water utility fund?
None here, Randy.
Okay. The next section is the sewer utility fund. The cover sheet begins on tab E, page 81. And the sewer utility fund includes the operation, depreciation, and capital improvements. Those are included on tab X, the line item budget is. Within the operation, we fund some administration, water treatment plant operation and maintenance, collection system, and then some for accounts and collections. The initiatives for that fund for next, or for the 24 fiscal year include continue analysis of the copper compliance issue. If you'll recall, we currently have a October 1 deadline for compliance with copper. With the action that was taken by the council, we're preparing the submittal to ask for an extension on that to perform the metals translator study. Nutrient reduction, currently the NPDES operation permit is in a period of public comment. That will change the compliance schedule on that to from February of 24 to February of 26. Of course, that was precipitated by the VLR aeration system bid that we received that wasn't very good. And then that's critical to the compliance with the nutrient reduction. And then we're facing the chloride, selenium, thallium permit requirement for August of 27. And there is some funding included in this operations budget to begin some of the testing and data collection for primarily the chlorides, but also will include the selenium and thallium. So to get a handle on what that is early on in this permit cycle. The revenue from rates for the sewer utility is estimated at $2,025,000 or $75,000. That rate, there is a rate increase scheduled for July of 23. That rate increase is about 1.5% for the majority of users, but for our two contributing industries, it's considerably higher than that. I think one of them is 11 and one might be 13 or 15, one or the other. But those are all pre-planned, scheduled increases to bring the utility, or the users, the industrial users, into reasonable conformance with equity with the rest of the users. So that's included already by ordinance. We do fund 6.1 full-time equivalent personnel from the sewer utility fund. And some of the capital proposals include the lagoon cleaning, which is really an annual expense. The purchase of a new utility tractor, and then the purchase of a generator to operate our outlying lift stations in the event of power failure. Some of the transfers, there's quite a bit in that. That's for insurance, depreciation, some capital improvement, and then debt service payment. And as you went through debt service tonight, you realize there's only 2 more payments on that wastewater treatment plant. So there'll be funding available at that point in time. And the early proposal for that funding was to begin rehabilitation of the sanitary sewer system. Is trying to do it incrementally, whether it's replacement or lining of that system. So that'll be an ongoing project, multi-year, once it's started. Depreciation fund is similar to the water depreciation fund. We do allocate $35,000 annually to it, and its balance is projected to be $838,000. The sewer utility fund I balance at the end of next fiscal year at about $2.95 million. For capital improvements, we're including in here proposal for continued nutrient reduction work at $100,000. Same with copper compliance work at $100,000. And then left the VLR aeration system in. We believe that it should be close to reletting. We'll probably have to augment that with the digester work once it's identified. So unless there are any questions, that's pretty much the sewer utility fund.
Everyone good?
Okay. The last section is stormwater utility. The cover sheet begins on tab E, page 84. That includes the operations of the stormwater utility and the capital improvements. The 24 initiative is that Southgate Road, Middle Raccoon River Storm Sewer Project. And it's currently in the study phase. And once it's identified, the improvements are identified, we'll propose to go on into design phase for that. The revenue from fees of the stormwater utility fund is estimated at $260,000. That fee schedule has not changed since inception of that stormwater utility fund in 2004. We are anticipating expenditures, capital expenditure for that storm sewer system along Southgate Road watershed at about $1.575 million. And that brings the balance in that fund down to just under $55,000. So pretty much expending that fund.
Yeah, that's assuming that you get a good bid.
Yes, it is, exactly. And the project will probably be multiple pipes in all probability, so they'll be scheduled so that they could be, some of them, I suppose, delayed if necessary. Yeah, that's about it for the stormwater utility fund. Record time. Yeah, unless there are any questions.
Anyone? You're on a roll.
Yep, all done.
Is that all done?
That's it.
I got one, we're gonna replace all the stoplights someday.
That is in the 5-year capital improvement program.
Okay.
For, I think it's 25.
I saw that in there, I just couldn't
Yep.
remember what year.
And that proposal was made to be funded out of TIF. Once the street resurfacing's done, moving into the traffic signals.
Okay.
Those are the ones that are outdated and they no longer make parts and circuits and things for?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Absolutely ripping.
Well, I think we're good. You want to go back to,
Yes, I just have a few
Anything that you might have
areas I
missed?
just want to touch really briefly on under the other areas section on our outline.
okay,
So, the first one is tab G, page 98. Since we don't have a cover page for some of these things, I thought I would just bring them up really quickly for you to know. So this is the airport budget portion. The airport commission had submitted their budget request, and there is an increase requested, slight increase. I did ask them about that, and it's to do some either equipment repairs and maintenance, as well as building maintenance, things that have been put off for a number of years to handle other immediate things that have come up in their area. And then the very next page is the landfill. So this is the part of the budget where we account for the contracts that we have with our haulers to do garbage collection for our citizens. There is a scheduled increase in their contract that will begin on July 1st. So that's been factored into the proposed number here for fiscal '24. Basically, it's pretty much a pass-through. We collect the money and then we pay the haulers. But we have to account for it in our budget.
Can you back up to page 98? What was the changes or what they're gonna spend for this year?
The request went from fiscal twenty-three of 236,000 to 247,000. And a lot of it has to do with either building maintenance things or equipment maintenance items that need to be taken care of at the airport.
Okay, I see the first two items are pretty high, okay, got it. From 18 to 29.
And I will say, working with the airport commission in fiscal '22, they underspent their budget by quite a bit. So we were able to use some of their money in fiscal '22 to put towards the lighting project by them underspending their original budget request in '22. It was like 39,000 something. So that was very helpful to get a jump start on the city's match for the lighting project. Okay, so then the next thing I wanted to touch on really quick, because once again, we don't have a cover sheet, is under tab R is our special revenue projects, or excuse me, special revenue funds for TIF. And I'll just really briefly go through each one of these. Our most active urban renewal area is the downtown area. And what is being proposed in here is we have debt outstanding, an internal loan advancement from the sewer utility fund. So we collect the TIF monies from the urban renewal area and then we're repaying the sewer fund for that debt that's outstanding. We will need to have, like Randy had kind of talked about, the monies that are sitting in the corridor capital project originated from TIF collections, or is being a repayment from TIF collections. So we will need to decide what we want to do with those funds if they're not going to be expended out of the corridor capital projects fund.
Didn't we once talk about maybe allocating some of that to Adam Street?
We could, that would be an eligible project, yes.
Okay.
So, I don't know if I know council has not taken action on
Right,
that for sure.
right.
But there
It was
needs
a
to be-
possibility.
That would be an eligible expense, yes.
Okay.
And then going forward, we do have, some expenditures, as Randy alluded to, I think some of the design, starting some of the design stuff for, the street resurfacing of the central business district area. But I don't believe we might need to take a look at, is that, how that will get expended all in fiscal '24 or not, and our requesting of funds in that area going forward. So, we'll be bringing some, information back to council on that stuff. We're just repaying a debt that was outstanding. The Westfield special revenue, as well as the Rolling Hills South condominiums, those both funds are set up that we are doing a TIF refunding with the developer. So council took action back in either November or December for some annual appropriations. So the money, they're just gonna go past the reflecting the TIF and then we'll pay it back. So those are the urban renewal area special funds. We talked a little bit about in the capital projects area, the airport LED light project, so I won't touch on that. And then the last little section I had, I just wanted to make mention, since we didn't at the beginning, as it relates to our employees' expense across all the full-time city employees. We're continuing to propose to do our partial self-funding model for the health insurance. And we've built in a estimate where, what would happen or what would the fund look like if the health insurance premium from Walmart came in at like a 15% increase, and then possibly having then to raise the COBRA rates roughly 10%. That should keep the fund about stable, meaning revenues in and out, revenues in, expenses out should equal. But one of the biggest wild cards in the health insurance game there is what will happen with that self-funding, that partial self-funding portion. So it just depends on how much needs to be funded from there. There is built in here $100,000, which is very comparable to what we have been spending in years past. So I feel like we're in the ballpark. And that what's being proposed in here, I think, is it's not out of line and it's not gonna bankrupt the city. So those are the last little areas that I wanted to touch on for tonight's stuff. So if there are questions or things council wants a little bit more explanation on.
Otherwise, we pretty well have Wednesday night mapped out
Yep.
before us, and so
I think it should be a little bit shorter.
outside agencies, fire department, building department, Parks and Rec, that'll take all doggone night.
When's your raise?
What's that?
When's your raise coming?
What raise?
How long do you wanna take on this?
2028.
We might be absent Wednesday night, is that what you're saying? Any questions for Laura, Brad, Randy?
I think it should be noted too, Mayor, that, and I know we've talked about this, but when we first had all the requests in, we were really, really short. And the department heads all really put their nose to the grindstone. And we made some adjustments here and there, and Laura put it all together, and it scared me when I heard the number at first, so I was really pleased to see the work that the department heads did to get us back in line.
Yeah, so feel free to come ask questions, tomorrow, Wednesday before the meeting. I mean, we'll plan on finishing up going over it on Wednesday, and then if there's additional information or any adjustments council wants to discuss, that would be the time to do it. Or give us the go-ahead and say,
Yeah.
yeah, we wanna walk through the public hearing process.
Because we've got some extra dates penciled in, but we'd rather not use them. So if we can get it knocked out Wednesday night, that'd be pretty awesome. All right, anything else? If not, we're in order for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Tom and Kyle, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Carolyn,
Yes.
Kyle.
Yep.
Laverne.
Yes.
JJ. Yes. Misty.
Yes.
So much for looking at your sheet.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
I know,